Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is Joe Scarice, your co-founder, co-host of the Creative Bird Strategy podcast and house here on Clubhouse. Love to thank everybody for another great Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here, providing education, networking, and strategy. So we'll get started here in just a few minutes and get in some peeps invited in. Busy past week, busy week ahead. We'll go over that. We'll thank our sponsors in just a few minutes. I'm going to invite some peoples in here just to say a hello. Uh, get that going here. We'll get here. We're going to be discussing strategies in building a winning culture in real estate. And that's just not for agents, it's for investors too. You got to bring some form of balance in your world. And boundaries are always good too. So we'll dive into it in the next few minutes. I'd love to thank our sponsors today, as always. I'd like to thank Mr. Yerdal Perkins of Perkatech, who's our social media designer, architect, Oz behind the veil. Just has been just a great business associate and friend through the past decade. Um, and I want to thank him in bringing everything to the forefront. We're hovering real close to our 100th podcast, which I'm really excited about that as well. I'd like to thank Miss Linda Pelagas of Realty 411, who has a real estate publication, national events that she provides for real estate investors and professionals throughout the country. I'd like to thank MB Capital Solutions, where I'm a referral partner providing unsecured business lines of credit for real estate professionals and business to business clients throughout the country. I'd like to thank the Elite Deal Makers, where we are offering now events in Philadelphia, Lehigh Valley, North Jersey, South Jersey. We're helping support Central New Jersey with one of the new market leaders there, Kim. Look forward to working with her in collaboration as well. Um, and I like to thank Lendmark, where I'm a senior loan analyst providing asset-based lending for real estate professionals throughout the country, nationwide, DSCR, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, multifamily, single family through four family, advisory, uh, and really coming around full corner with our team. And I'll give you a little updates on that as well. I just want to get some quick invites there and get into our discussion. So let's talk a little bit about our past week where I got to visit a little bit. I was in Fairfax, Virginia at the Cashwell Breakfast Club on Monday, which was really great. Stopped by at the York RIA in York, Pennsylvania the following day. Then moseyed on over to was on a call with the Rochester RIA group during the day and was at some events in the evening. And then Thursday got over to uh, Jersey City with the guys, Chris Caggiano and Craig Caggiano. We had a panel discussion during the day. In the evening, I was up in Connecticut with Brandon Rush at his event. And then Friday we got into the office in Connecticut, our office in Westport, and then Saturday I was at the Sub Two meeting, providing in Union, New Jersey, where we networked and discussed wholesaling, and we were there for 2.5 hours. It was a lot of fun yesterday in Union, New Jersey. That was a lot of fun. We had a great time, about 50, 60 people, really in-depth discussions. I really was excited about uh, the camaraderie, the humbleness, just everything that was going on. It was a really great event yesterday. I really look forward to supporting and sponsoring a lot of these sub two communities throughout the Northeast region. I'm sponsoring now Philadelphia, South Jersey, North Jersey, New York, also the Poconos. So I'm supporting a lot of that sub two movement as well with Pace Morby and his students. A lot of excitement in those rooms. But really looking for that. And then this month coming up in March, I'll be at the Elite Dealmakers event in Richmond, Virginia. Looking forward to meeting Jim Ingersoll in person and a lot of the other market leaders throughout the country. Very excited about that at the end of the month. We'll be in Pittsburgh this week coming up at the Pittsburgh Apartment Association That's something a little different that we're doing. And then the following week, I'm in King of Prussia for the Philadelphia Apartment Association meeting as well. So a lot of moving parts, meeting a lot of new people. And let's dive into our updated information on the market. So I don't know if anybody's or everybody's following me on LinkedIn. You should. I post a lot of articles throughout the week and also polls for you to take to review based on the subject or the article that I write. But that I put up about four of them this past week. So take a look for that on my Facebook. But let's get caught up on some subjects that caught my eye, some articles. More recent one. Let's talk about the market rates. Market rates came down to about 6.74 on a 30-year. We dropped a full quarter point in the commercial lending space. So I'm pretty excited about what that looks like. We're probably doing loans right now, originating loans in the DSCR space in the sixes, between 6.75, 6.875. But we're hovering around between that and 7%. It's looking really good. The market is reacting very well to what's going on with Doge and unveiling a lot of the fraud and government resetting. So it's really starting to take shape in the rates. So we're feeling that inflation is starting to back down a little bit. Rates are getting really close to the 4-month lows. So that was something really great to see this past week. One other article that caught my eye on Mortgage News Daily. Let's see here. Pending home sales dropped to the lowest level in record in January. So I think it's a investor play. I'm starting to see more investors coming off the sidelines. Consumers are taking a seat back and watching. Inventory is kind of wonky in most markets. You're not seeing multiple offers at the same time. I mean, there's some selective markets where it's very aggressive, but for the most part across the country, sales are down. Okay. Another article that I found on DS News, investors embracing expansion of their real estate portfolio. And that obviously relates to the non-QM space and where that market is going and how it's expanding. I mean, it's $1 trillion business at this point. I mean, it's $1 trillion business, the real estate non-QM asset-based lending space. So I'm really seeing a lot of activity there, and so many investors are coming off the sidelines. It's just, I mean, I put out 6 term sheets this morning. Just it's Sunday, and I have actually a couple conference calls I have to catch up with because investors want to get ramped up. So they see the excitement. Most of them are holding. Not a lot of people are talking about flipping. Very interesting circumstances there. Another interesting article that I posted this week: canceled sales versus stockpiling inventory. Seeing a big uptick on that as well. Redfin analysis: just over 41,000 home purchase agreements in the United States fell through in January. So keep an eye on that and see where that goes. You're going to see some more inventory coming back onto the market that was originally under contract or pending or looming. So let's get into our subject today: winning culture, building a winning culture in real estate investing or just real estate in general. And I did put an article together that that I put together, one, a poll on your thoughts. And I'd love to have you please vote on that on my LinkedIn. And then two, strategies in building, and then also two, there's a full blown article out there as well. Um, so building a winning culture in real estate is key to long-term success and fostering collaboration and motivation and high performance. And I'm really big in team building, motivation, consistency, accountability, commitment. And some of these things just have to come naturally. You have to kind of feel it through. You got to define your core values and vision, and establishing a very clear mission and core values. And you have to lead by example. All right. You can't point fingers and not point it at yourself when some of the times it might be your fault. And you gotta also pony up if it is your fault. So I'm a big fan of accountability. I'm a big fan of KPIs. I'm a big fan of just like getting people in front of people, like just making sure everything's being addressed. So hang on one second. I'm just Wait 1 minute. Somebody's like interfering with my texts here. Then also fostering team collaboration, promoting a supporting, inclusive work environment, encouraging knowledge and sharing and mentorship. I can give you an example this past week. Friday, I went up and met the team and processing department. Sat down with everybody. We sat down and talked about pod collaboration and who's going to handling what. I mean, our volume is increasing, so we got to make sure one, we're taking care of our brokers, two, we're taking care of our retail channel, three, we're taking care of customer service, and then four, we're thinking about how we're going to make sure we get repeat business based on the qualitative work that we're providing. And then always investing in continuous learning. Like I'm always looking for my team to look at educational workshops to take or providing an educational workshop for others. Sometimes you learn most of your best information as a teacher. So, when I teach my CE courses on asset-based lending, I feel like I learned a new thing almost every class because somebody brings somebody to the forefront where I can expand my discussions. Like I'll give you an example. Yesterday, we were discussing wholesaling with a group of more newer real estate investors, and I put the idea out there like, why aren't you guys going after 4 unit to 20 unit in wholesaling? Like, there's bigger fish to fry, and then your assignment agreements make a little more sense being out of the residential landscape and being more in the commercial landscape. And then all the light bulbs went off in the room, and we start diving into that. And it was a really strong discussion. Recognizing and rewarding performance. I want to always thank people that are helping me. I always want to recognize them in different ways, whether I get them onto the podcast here, whether I get them to speak at one of my more local events. I want to recognize that. I want to bring that to the front line. I want to thank them in front of other parties that don't even know. And then the next item is really strong to me is leveraging technology and innovation. I mean, we're going through a massive social media uh, up like a whole revisionary of the website, the podcast itself. We're diving and spending thousands of dollars in Google Words. We're spending a lot of money in driving people to the events as well. You'll see some things starting to pop up over the next 5 to 6 months that will tie into what I'm talking about. You're seeing a lot more video clips, a lot more posts. I've retained a full-grown team that is administrated through Yardell at Percatech to make sure we're staying in front of a lot of people. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We're pounding it out there, and then we're also using my Google business profile as well. I hired another group that Yardell is overseeing to enhance our Google Word presence, our event presence on Google search patterns. So we're going through that. We're in month 2, very excited about that as well. And then I'm also scraping my LinkedIn profile and my Facebook groups of data and then emailing these people back that are on there and one, either looking to collaborate, or two, how can I help them in one form or another in the asset-based lending space? Another big thought is encouraging work-life balance. I'm a big health nut. After this podcast, I'll be at the gym. I'll swim a couple laps. I'll do treadmill or bicycling for an hour, hit the jacuzzi. Got to take care of yourself first, because if you don't, nobody else is going to take care of you. It's a fact. And creating a customer-centric culture. You want to make people feel welcomed when you're talking to them. Take the time. Don't make people feel that you're rushing them through. If I'm out on a discussion with somebody on a phone while I'm driving, they're like, "Am I taking up too much of your time?" I'm like, "Listen, you have the next hour because I'm driving. Okay, so just take your time. Let's go through it. And so when I get to my laptop, we can get deep into what you're trying to address. Take the time. People really, really appreciate strategy discussions more than ever before. Community engagement and branding. I'm a real fan of community engagement and branding. My thought with that is have an event yourself. Why are you holding an educational event for yourself, for others, to look like a source, to appear to be branding yourself as a source of real estate? If we're all real estate professionals, people should know and feel that. Yeah, I hadn't been running my own events for several years because I was recovering from my stroke, just trying to make sure my health was at peak. And I felt like I was at a great spot. I had a good team around me. And now we're expanding out these events on a month-to-month basis. I'm actually also starting an event up in Connecticut with the Landlord Association at our corporate office, which is a whole nother area that we didn't even think about, but we're taking advantage of a beautiful conference room, Wi-Fi screen and everything can fit up to 100 people. So now we're going to be the host of the Landlord Association for Connecticut. I mean, that's 50 to 60 landlords coming through our offices once a month, knowing who we are, branding ourselves, being part of their community. That's big, big in relationship building. So you have to figure different ways in building your winning culture. I'm working on this week to week with others within my circle of influence, my team of experts, and for myself. So I wanted to put that information out there. If anybody would like to raise their hand, of course, please do. We're going to come to our great moderators that are here every week, or at least as consistent as they can. We'll obviously go with the rose amongst the thorns first. Amy, good morning and welcome. Brief overview, who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, building a winning culture in real estate.
Hi, Joe. It's been a minute.
I know.
Paul Vito, the founder and CEO of a real estate technology company called Facilimax. We build digital twins of real estate, and we do that to help owners and managers optimize their building operations. So that's what my company does. I'm also the chair of the U.S. PropTech Council, which actually is now international, Joe. So it's the International PropTech Council, not just U.S. And we are in Canada, the United States, and Mexico, and other countries. People are forming chapters, but we basically are a trade association for the real estate technology industry. And so, building a winning culture, you touched on a lot of different things. When I think of culture, I think of how your employees act and react, but it does radiate out to your customers. It radiates out to through your branding as well. Because if you have, I think the old adage is the happier the employees are, the more money you make, which is been proven to be true. And this goes back to my days when I was in HR. Before I got into real estate, I was in human resources, and I got my degree in organizational leadership from Purdue. I could talk ad nauseum on building winning cultures. I think if I were to give any tips, I would say, obviously, you start with your mission and vision, and you actually spend a good time going through that. But you also want to identify the core values that identify what kind of culture you want to build. And then when you define those, and it's a living document, you can kind of change it as you go along. But when you define what those are, then you integrate those values into everything that you do. So you integrate those values into your hiring processes. You rank your candidates based on those values. You integrate those values into your performance reviews. You rank your employees on those values, and they see that those values are there on their performance reviews. So when you tie it to compensation and you tie it to how you're getting hired or promoted, that's when the values start to mean something. And then those values can kind of stick, and they can actually guide decision making. But when you're dealing with ethical issues, you have to go back to what are our values and what does this mean. And as you're going forward and you're doing business, you just you need to kind of always refer back to the values, and that's how you get them to stick. And so when you're looking at culture like that, that's one tip to do it. Obviously, you need to promote it and communicate it out to your employees. And as you grow and scale, everybody needs to understand what it is. You can spend all this time creating your mission and vision, and then you stick something up on the wall, and then nobody pays attention to it. So that was not a very effective culture adoption strategy, right? You need to you actually need to like talk about it and talk about it and talk about it until you're blue in the face with your employees so that they get it. So those are a couple of tips on building a winning culture.
So, Amy, obviously I've been, keeping an eye on your LinkedIn presence, of course. And it's really been it's gotten extremely consistent to tie in with the prop tech council. You've been able to go from real estate, which you're still a real estate investor professional, but you've
Right.
taken this council and really have come full circle in the branding perspective. Have as you were doing it basically yourself. I mean, you were creating something that didn't exist, 5 years back. This is something that is in the forefront. How, I mean, did you have a couple people that let's talk about the people that attracted at first and who's involved in that circle now? How did it evolve? Did you have to kind of kindly fire some people to kind of take away some of the clinging on and to be able to progress and be very obsessed in what you're supposed to do and find that same obsession from others? Like, what was some of the good and the bad of creating something from scratch? That's now it's international, right? So
Yeah.
what had you did you have to do good and bad? And don't have to go and we don't have to drop names or nothing like that. We just gotta just drop, yeah. But what I'm saying with dropping just like some bad and good to what happened growing this thing out. And being a minority interested owner, you're a woman owned company too, as well. So you had to kind of run into that whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So are we talking my company or are we talking the council? Which one?
Let's talk about the council because that kind of came from like out of you made that out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, that's true. And we're only a year old.
Yeah.
And we have 1,000 members. And next week we're hosting an event in South by Southwest. So I'll talk about
You're
that.
never gonna come to the Northeast to see me, are you?
I'll eventually get there.
It's all right. You're playing hard to get. I get it. I know. I'm with you.
No, we have. You know what? I should talk to you. We're establishing local chapters. We should have one in Philly. I don't know why we.
I have a beautiful office to host your prop tech council happy hour.
Definitely.
So wine and snacks will be provided by Landmark Capital whenever you're ready.
All right, awesome.
Hold me to it.
I will. So, so the council really was. It was an idea that I had because I came from real estate investing. We're in real estate. There's a million groups. Like if you wanted to look around, there's going to be a real estate investing group out there. There just is. I mean, I truly value the magic of what a group can hold. Building a community, what it can do. And real estate has really adopted that strategy, right? You have real estate investor associations, you have realtor associations, you have all these different associations in the real estate industry, which is great. When I got into prop tech, though, I couldn't find one. I couldn't believe it. I was flabbergasted that there was no association or group or anything. And so I started it. And so as you're building out and you're taking a group like that, and we were growing super fast, but we were very lean. So even though we were growing really fast, I didn't. We're a trade association, so we're technically we're a nonprofit trade association. We didn't have like a huge amount of staff, and we're building this organization. So I leaned on as much technology as I could. So all my LinkedIn is automated now. Like even on my connection request, that's all automated. I have it set up for certain searches for certain people, and it does my connection request now. It does my initial messaging now. If I want to run campaigns, it'll do that too. All my LinkedIn is automated. So, and I looked at with the advent of AI, how can I automate everything that I do? And I've been spending the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months looking at all of those processes, outlining everything that I'm doing, and then using and leaning on technology as much as possible. But at the end of the day, technology is only there to help you. What I found with the council was, we had this huge overarching thing, which was great. We wanted people to get together from all walks of life in the real estate and technology industries to start talking to one another, because it was super fragmented, because the real estate industry as itself is very fragmented. And so no one was talking to one another, and somebody could be developing a solution over here for office product that would have probably applied to multifamily, but they weren't talking to one another. So I was like, okay, that's stupid. We need to talk to one another. So we were creating this kind of connection point. And so as we grew and as we continue to grow, we're a band of volunteers, but sometimes you come across volunteers that are doing things that, would align with the mission. And so you go back to, look, this is the mission and vision of the organization. You can't be doing what you're doing. Like we have to, you have to align with this, and it's okay if that's not your jam or that's what you didn't think this was. And I will say early on, I wasn't very clear. We're a startup. We're flying by the seat of our pants. We're just building stuff, responding to the overwhelming interest in what the council was doing. And we didn't have the structure and the processes and all that other stuff in place. We were just, reacting to it and trying to get through the overwhelming response from people who wanted to be involved. And so you make bad decisions early on because you don't have the structures and processes in place, but you can get them in place. And that's kind of, I've had to have some conversations with people going, look, this is not aligned with what we're doing. Thank you very much for your time so far, but we need you to do this. And if you're not able or willing to do that, then I have fun, but it doesn't match with our organization, so you can't be involved. So I haven't had to do that very much, and I'm very lucky that way. Will I have to have more of those conversations in the future? Sure. But you just go back to, does this align with what we're trying to do? Are you marching in step with what we're trying to build here? And if you were not, then we have to have a conversation. And if you can come back into the fold and you march along with everyone else, great. If you don't, then, sayonara, because you can't be doing that, right? So that's kind of a couple of things that we've seen. I will say that the biggest thing that's happening with the council now and what we're seeing now is just the power of the network. And I knew that would happen. And I feel like I'm a mother hen. I just get people in the room and the magic just kind of happens because people are talking to one another. So I'm creating the connection points. But when you grow as fast as we're growing, you want to continue to create those connection points. So what we're doing is we're building out technology on the back end that allows that. So discussion boards and different things right now that where we have these smaller groups of forums on very specific topics that are going to be meeting. So we had this idea, and now we have 22 working groups of different various topics led by volunteers that are leading on AI and big data and climate tech and construction tech. And we have real estate sector forums that all have volunteers. And then we also have chapters, local chapters that are right now being formed in 20 cities. Since we have Philadelphia now, we have 20 cities that are forming local chapters, or they're starting to have meetings already. And if I had told you a year ago I was going to be here, you would have laughed. I was like, no way, I would have laughed at you. But we're here. And it's really kind of interesting, but I think it's just playing into the fact that people really, really want to get together. People really, really want to learn from one another. And if you can see that desire in people, you can use it for good, right? And you can use it for good in your organization. You can use it for good in how you brand yourself. You can use it for good in lots of different ways, and it will help you be more successful. Half a nickel, Joe.
Half a nickel. There it is. And I appreciate that. Amy, it takes more than casual Fridays or a monthly happy hour to build a winning workplace culture. It takes a clear vision from leadership, okay, and the commitment from everyone makes that culture work every day in a countless way. Obsessing about growth, always finding a better way, relentlessly focusing on talent. I recently just hired a ops analyst. He has a title license. He has a property and casualty insurance license. He's got subprime background. He's been in the industry 20 plus years, very well balanced, shows well. And I took him over than somebody that I would have to mold, have to hold hand. I in my industry in the asset-based lending space, I hate to say there's not a lot of time to hold, holding somebody's hand. You got to get hit the ground running. So I interviewed three different people. One was coming out of college. One was in the business, but kind of not in the business. And I didn't feel his commitment or fire was there. And I would have to hate to have then let him go afterwards when it didn't work out. And I'm seeing this gentleman coming full circle. He worked in a very small circle, and now I've expanded that circle for him to realize that his circle wasn't working. That lake had no fish. So, sometimes you got to kind of allow people to see what you're doing being transactional, and that kind of sets the tone of creating a different type of winning mindset. And I think I made a really smart move along with bringing in a very experienced processor underwriter and then another underwriter as well. I'm creating a pod. I foresee a couple more people being added over the next 6 months to 12 months because the volume's coming is increasing. So you got to look at it from the social media aspect of how much business can you pull in and still provide qualitative work and qualitative discussions and qualitative strategy. And these are things you got to think about as you're growing a business from scratch or maintaining a business and expanding that business. And real estate, we're on it every day, all of us. So, like, look, we're on a podcast on Sunday morning, 9 a.m., and we'll be back to work. We'll probably all of us have something to do after this podcast related to our profession. So it's the consistency, it's the continuity and being committed to something. There's no classes or workshops out there to teach you how to be committed to success. Okay. There's nothing out there. I've never seen it. I mean, you go take a Tony Robbins class, that's great. You walk on fire 3 days later, you're not in front of Tony Robbins anymore. So how do you keep that fire within inside you? You got to be consistent. You got to take care of your health. If you feel healthy, I'm going to tell you, if you feel good, healthy wise, you're going to be very successful. You're going to feel great. Your clarity is going to be there. I just recently went through a homeopathic treatment that literally stabilized my entire blood pressure, my clarity, everything, my energy levels. It was an amazing transformation in a treatment. I think everybody should get this treatment. I'm sorry that it's in Philadelphia that you got to get it done, but I was beyond ecstatic. I've already shared it with a couple other people, and they feel unbelievable in balance. And you got to try different things. So, when it comes to building that winning culture, it starts with you, and then what you tracked around you from a karma perspective. Bob, good morning and welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion this morning building winning culture in real estate. Bob?
Hey, Joe. Can you hear me?
Yep. Hear you fine.
Okay. Sorry, this thing's really glitchy sometimes. So my name is Bob Cheswick, president of Cheswick Corporation. I help people set up LLCs and whatnot. I'm not here to give any legal advice. And listening to Amy talk about the way she built her business and everything, and you talking about having the different difficulties with or not difficulties, challenges, excuse me, especially when it comes to onboarding people. I think back to the earlier days of my business, and we worked with a lot of law firms, real estate investors, accounting firms, going back to the origins of my company about a little over 20 years ago. Now, if anyone owned a business back then, you would know that the process of setting up a company was a lot more manual than it was paper-based. The digital concept hadn't caught on yet in the early 2000s. So we built an entire system around how to rapidly because at the time, Delaware was the ruling king of where to set up a company, but the paperwork was physically embossed. Remember those days when you used to have to crimp the paper and it would with the little bumps on the paper with the corporate seal and all that. We used to have to physically get those delivered. And it took a team of 36 people spread across the mid-Atlantic region from New York to D.C. to be able to get the paperwork from Dover, Delaware into the hands of these various firms up and down throughout the Northeast. And I had built out a whole logistical system of how to physically transport the paperwork, not using third parties like FedEx or UPS. Now, this meant I had a lot of people that were on the road constantly. They were on trains constantly. And trying to, at the same time, make sure that everybody got home for dinner at the end of the night. It was quite a challenge, but especially being, at that point, I was writing the paychecks for 36 people at 23 years old. It was quite a feat. And one of the things that I learned very quickly when it came to keeping people upbeat and happy was giving people, and I'm trying to think of how to word this, because in some ways it doesn't always translate into today, but we ran a very loose working environment. I didn't sweat out the little things with people, just wanted to make sure the job got done. Trust me, if you walked into one of our all staff meetings and you heard the way we just, let's just put it this way, we just let it rip. There's no other way to put it. Nobody got offended. Nobody got upset. We built a culture around people where we took our work seriously. We just didn't take ourselves too seriously. And we had the great fortune of having some wonderful personalities who had incredible sense of humors. And just watching them, most of us, or I shouldn't say all of us, but most of us were in our 20s at the time, first job, second job, right out of college, whatever the case may be. And we were kind of an early pioneer working into a space that hadn't really been developed yet. So I kind of gave everyone the creative freedom to come up with a way to build a better mousetrap. And the result of that was we had a very rapidly growing business that it kept growing and growing and growing, but we didn't survive when the business became more digital, and suddenly doing things the manual way didn't really work as well anymore. So over time, we had to start shedding people away. I mean, obviously, we're still in business 23 years later, but everything's all digital now. So one of the things that we did, but as I said, it was very important that I didn't let people get caught up in the hierarchy. I mean, they knew who they worked for. They worked for myself and my business partner. But I didn't let people get caught up in job titles. I didn't let people think that any work was above them or beneath them. I let people do their jobs as creatively as possible, and we had fun with it. Just as an example, one of the things we started was Fridays were closed at 3. To this day, we continue that. Started that in 2004. Still do it today. So we shut it down. And that was so people could get the early trains out of the city and get home a little earlier, especially in the summer. So we had a lot of people that were very motivated and wanting to show up to work. But one of the things we did, and this was hard, when we had to start letting people go, just because, again, the dynamics of the industry changed. Rarely did we ever have to sit down and talk to someone about, firing them or whatever. That we were I know how lucky we were, and I know that luck would have run out eventually. But one of the things that was important to me was making sure that nobody had a gap in their career. So when we knew someone was going to have to go, we would have a conversation with them and say, listen, we want to transition you so that when you leave here on Friday on your last day, you walk into your new job on Monday. And I'm proud to say that with only an exception or two, we were able to do that. One of whom, by the way, is an executive for a major television production company. I can't say the name out loud, but we tried to place people into, all right, where do you want to be? What's your dream job? And, we had a bunch of clients, and we had a bunch of law firms and accounting firms who knew people. We knew people, at Comcast and NBC and things like that. We were able to put people where they wanted to go. And sometimes people left us because they started their own business. And we always saw that as a success, it's like, not, oh my God, we have to replace them. Let's celebrate that they're moving on to the next step in their life. So it was all about supporting a winning culture and letting people be themselves. and not taking yourself too seriously. That's how we built a winning culture. And to this day, I still try to promote that, even though I don't really have a team to speak of anymore. I still have a lot of people that we work closely with, and it's again the same thing. Just let people do their job, relax, and have a little fun with it. The work is serious, doesn't mean we have to be serious about ourselves. Joe, back to you.
Thanks, Bob. And are you going to have a room following this room as well?
Yes, I'll do a quick room. I have another CTA update that's very important, plus some state deadlines that are coming up, which I'll review. So it'll be under the name The Business of Real Estate. It'll start immediately after you close this room.
Thank you. So, I've known Bob for over 14 years now. And, he's been part of my team of experts. When I need someone to have a discussion about their LLC, it's Bob. So I just saves a lot of time making that email introduction, because I don't want to be considered an expert in something I'm not an expert in. I want to be able to refer somebody that can give them a qualitative answer, and that is a winning culture, because people feel like, wow, he hooked me up, man. He put me in the right direction. He put me into somebody that can give me some strategy how to scale. So that all ties into this discussion today. Van, good morning. Welcome. We briefly met during the holidays. Van is part of the Jumpstart Nork. He developed that himself through Jumpstart Germantown with Kenny Weinstein out in Newark, New Jersey. Big fan of Newark, New Jersey, since I'm a Rutgers Newark graduate. So I came up there to meet him. Actually, one of the people I wanted to meet at that event, and love to hear his thoughts on building a real winning culture in real estate, especially starting a development group for new investors. Van, are you available to unmic?
Yes, I am. Yes, absolutely.
Good morning.
Good morning, Joseph. And good morning to all. Yeah, it was really it was good to meet you. At the mayor's
holiday
event.
Party. Yeah,
and stuff. And I mean, building a culture, is really something new for me. I've invested in real estate, for years, right? But I've always been a solo investor, right?
Yeah.
And the one time that I took a leap and tried to develop about 100 condos, in South Jersey in 2007. I got handled, right? And real estate is a blood sport, right? And if you don't know what you're doing, you'll get beat up pretty bad, and I did. And after that, I kind of went back to just buying a piece of property, fixing it up, flipping it, make what I make, and and kind of just solo, and that really was the extent of my real estate career, right? And then I started getting introduced to a few different people from some business owners, and someone asked me to go down to Jumpstart, and they wanted to know what I thought about bringing the Jumpstart program, training program, to Newark, and whether it was a fit. And so I went through the training, and I thought that the strategy was fantastic, and for any and I actually think that the Jumpstart training could work in any city, right? Especially the urban areas that have land banks, and that need blight reduction, and things like that. And so it's interesting that this is your subject, because when it comes down to building culture, I'm just starting to get my sea legs. I want to bring people on, but you have to be careful of who you bring on. Even in terms of of our board members, right? And we're still building our board. And, one of the things that I spoke to some other business owners, and one of the key things that I was told was that you have to be careful about when you're building a board, right? Because you don't want the person that has the name, oh, this is so and so, and you want them on the board. That's, that's the bells and whistles of it all. The guy may have name recognition, but if he's not putting the work in, you don't want him around, and stuff. And I so far I kind of find that to be true. It's better to be involved with people that are aligned with you, that believes in the mission, and you would get, authentically or organically, they would perform because they're passionate about the same things that you are, or that business, where it's going and stuff. But yeah, and I guess I wanna hire people, quickly, right? And so I have to say, hey, just hold on a second, and kind of figure out if this person is the right fit. But yeah, at Jumpstart, actually, Joe, we have our cohort is starting.
I saw that.
April 2nd, 3rd, 10th, 17th, and 24th.
Yeah.
Those are our 5 training sessions. And I was actually emailing you this morning, right? And then I said, hey, Joseph shared with me that he had, he had a Sunday meeting. And so I looked you up and decided to come on. And I'm glad that I did, because I'm learning so much just by being in the room and stuff. So I feel like I'm rambling.
No. You listen. Everybody finds their way on this, man. Just listen. There's nothing scripted here. So all these discussions, which we're close to 100 now, that are they're documented, they're memorialized on the website. It's raw. It's very raw. So Jumpstart Newark, obviously, I feel there's way more opportunity right now in Newark comparatively to Jersey City, Elizabeth. Maybe Elizabeth has some opportunity. I would love to see a Jumpstart Elizabeth. Jumpstart Jersey City would be pretty cool if that came about too. Are you finding the pros and the cons, to like when it comes to a urban setting? Does the politics try to get too involved with something that you're trying to do something right? You're trying to put together a workshop for investors. Is there a boundary you need to set for the politics a little bit? And how do you handle that, diplomatically? Because you don't want to burn your path either. You know what I mean? So how do you balance that off? Because we met at a mayoral event. Everybody, you couldn't talk more politics in Newark than that room that we were in. You know what I mean? That's hardcore politics. So like, how do you balance that? Because I mean, you're trying to do the right thing. You're obviously a real estate professional. Like, how do you find balance? Do you kind of set the boundaries right up front, or you welcome some of it and kind of give them a piece of rope around their neck just so they hang themselves otherwise? I mean, how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, if I'm understanding your question, it's difficult, but you have to have a balance, right? Because it's easy, it's very easy to get into trouble, right? Yeah. Like somebody from give you a perfect example, someone from from a municipality emailed me and wanted me to donate to some organization that dealt with their family.
Yes.
And it's kind of like, do I do this? Like, I this person is responsible for possibly signing off on some letters of intent for our jump starters, right? Yeah. And so I'd like to do this, but I also don't want to set a precedent, right? I don't, so it gets a little dicey.
It gets sticky. It gets a little sticky. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I mean, listen, you don't got to tell me. Listen, my dad was in politics. I know how this works. I realize real estate and politics run a really parallel in a lot of things. Because I went to another event following yours where we met. I went to that rail opening, that they had at the DoubleTree.
yes.
And it was all about this opening of the railway, but there was every single politician you could possibly find in that room at the same time. So, yeah, I mean, I was talking to former Governor McGreevey, I was talking to senators, and I'm like, this is really, I mean, I never realized how parallel real estate and politics really run when it comes to getting things done, more so than ever before. Like I was talking to a gentleman up in Syracuse, and I'm like, "Hey, like, what events do you go to?" Since the RIA is kind of it's weak, the RIA up there, and it doesn't have a. He goes, "I go to political events that are tied in with real estate." I said, "He goes, that's the only way you can get things done up here." So very easy, very interesting discussion. And I know, like, listen, Newark is old school stuff, man. I'm a graduate of '92 of Rutgers Newark, so I'm amazed what's gone on in that city. I'm very impressed. I told you I was very passionate. I'm like, listen, I'd like to be involved in, whatever capacity you need my assistance in, but I don't live here anymore. I'm not in this area. So I appreciate, you coming on this morning, and everybody look up Jumpstart Newark, connect with Van on LinkedIn, connect with the Jumpstart Newark environment. I think there's some great opportunity up there, and I think there's way more opportunity to come, in the city. And I do believe that. And I think that other cities like Newark should have a jumpstart like structure. So thank you for coming on here. I'll look for your email, Van, as well.
Oh, right. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day.
My pleasure. Brian, good morning and welcome from Rochester, New York. Welcome. Brief overview who you are, what you do, and thoughts to our discussion, building a winning culture in real estate.
Absolutely, thank you. Yeah, my wife and I run LG Homes Group. We're up here in Rochester, New York. I was originally from Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, born and raised. So our company, we both have full-time jobs, but our company, LG Homes Group, does fix and flips, fix and holds, and we're also recently been focusing on expansion of Airbnbs for our traveling professionals. So,
and I hear you might be brokering loans too at the Rochester RIA, rumor has it, but that's beside the point.
Yes. Yeah. So from the perspective, I'm sorry, I might be a little bit choppy here. From the perspective of kind of building that culture, I've been in leadership at a Fortune 500 company for the past 18 years. So like I said, I have my primary W-2, I do real estate on the side, and I really try to, using those leadership examples to how to build my team, and not so much my team. I don't have a team of employees on my real estate perspective, but like Joe always talks about, building that power team, and really just making sure, from my perspective, my wife's perspective, we have that clear vision and goal and mission of what our business is going to do, what we're not going to do. And then, so having that crystal clear of where we want our focus to be, and then really, again, going back to leadership perspective, making sure not only the goals and vision is clear for us, but also the people we interact with, whether they're our employees or just coworkers, in this, our power team, that they realize what our goals are. And the biggest, I think, the biggest transformation I've seen is being able to make sure the people I interact with in the real estate community, that they are also aware of what my vision and goals are. Because then, instead of me consistently chasing down deals or kind of asking others for what they have may be available in their portfolio or what they're looking to get rid of, I'm kind of starting to turn the tide where people come to me with, hey, I have this deal, are you interested, etc. As an example, a realtor I've kept connections with from 2 years ago, they brought me an off market on Friday, and we signed the paperwork. So now we got under contract on the 6 unit, just from prior relationship and kind of keeping that relationship going. So again, it's having that power team, having your own goals clear, but also making sure others know your goals and vision so they can reach out to you instead of your business relying on you reaching out to others. And with that, I'll pass it back.
Thank you, Brian. And I really look forward to our relationship growing. I really found the professionals at the RIA very humble, very modest, and very welcoming at the same time. And yeah, let me know if you need a sizer to practice on that 6 unit. Throw me an email and I'll send you the sizer for the most updated one so you can practice around with it.
Yeah, please. I need to reach out to you about the white label stuff. I want to get that going. So.
Yeah, that's with Yardell. And if anybody's interested, Brian is potentially becoming a white label marketing individual for Lenmark, so he'll be representing Lenmark as a correspondent. So I'm pretty excited about that, and so I will get a couple emails out to you this morning, Brian, just to get rolling with that. But I'll send you Yardell's information as well. Stephen, good morning and welcome. Brief overview: who you are, what you do, and thoughts to building a winning culture in real estate. Stephen, going once.
Yeah. Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you fine.
Yeah. All right. Great. Yeah. So, thanks. I'm actually jumping on the with Yardell to get started on the white label stuff. Very excited about that. And this is sort of my second time, maybe third time with the nonprofit developing a team. First in television, then a nonprofit, now this. And in this world, it's really, I'm trying to bring a little bit of that alternative style from the television world to letting people do their own thing. And the one thing that I'm realizing in growing this team that I didn't have previously is how much more time I'm taking, or rather it's taking me to set up the systems and structures. Like I think Amy talked about automating as much as you can and making sure that, wholesalers and brokers and agents and investors are such different animals, and you kind of have to figure out where does that person fit in this? What are they able to do solo? What are they able to do? What do they need help with? And really, my whole thing is now for the next few weeks and the past few weeks is okay, trying to set up the systems to keep everybody up. I'm spending a lot more time in an administrative, organizational. The team needs this systems, the team needs that systems, to try to make the culture work, because we're across the country, we're across the state. No one actually ever sees each other almost, and all sorts of different styles and personalities, and also what they're technically capable of and what they're not. Trying to figure that out has been a big part of my thing. And what I'm discovering now, and I've already started letting some people, freeing some people up, and I like what someone said about how you help them transition to where they belong, is if they don't fit what's in your team's culture, or if you're an individual entrepreneur, what your personal culture is, then you find that out early and you say, okay, it's time to move on. I had a couple people who viewed compliance with the ethics and performance laws a little bit more loosely than I was okay with, and I kind of had to say, okay, well, you might be right, I might be wrong, but we kind of got to look at this a little bit differently moving forward. I wish you luck. So my biggest thing in sort of the building the team is identifying those players that don't fit as quickly as possible and helping them go where they do, and just trying to set up the system so that everyone has access, intranets, communication, whatever tools you need, virtual assistants, whatever, trying to set that up so that everyone can perform at their best at what they do. Because my job is to support what they don't do well.
Steve, thank you. And I've worked with Steve on a couple loans. I've spoken at a couple of his events. Steve is trying to ramp up a brand and attract the righteous people. So good luck with that, Steve, and thank you for coming on this morning. Clear vision of a winning culture mindset tips. Like just let's break it down real quick. Creating a clear vision of winning culture mindset requires intentional effort, strong leadership, and a shared commitment to excellence. Define and communicate the vision clearly, foster a growth mindset, emphasize accountability and ownership, cultivate positive and resilient attitude, build strong team collaboration, lead by example, encourage innovation and adaptability, maintain high standards and discipline, and celebrate wins and learn from losses, and prioritize well-being and work-life balance. These are very important pieces of the pie. Amy, quick thought on an exit strategy of this discussion this morning. Any final thought?
Yeah, I mean, everybody had really cool insights. I think, when you're obviously the biggest part of building, and I'm focusing on the word building a winning culture. I mean, obviously everybody identifies the culture that they want to have. They think that it'll help them be successful. The building part really is in once you have identified it, it's the maintenance of the culture, right? That's where all the hard work comes in, and so you have to spend a good amount of time communicating, a good amount of time using the things that come up every day in business and relating it somehow back to values in your decision making, and then letting the employees know why you did it, and because it was tied to your culture. You have to tell people that your culture means something. And if you don't do that, then all the effort you sat down in your strategy sessions, or with your team of people to determine what your culture was going to be, is for naught, because you're not doing the things to make it stick. So that would be kind of, if I were to add a last point, would be that there's most of the work is not in the identifying what it's going to be. Most of the work is really just maintaining it, and then obviously you'll have to revise it every once in a while if your culture is working or not working, and you obviously have to take a step back once a year, whatever, on your strategy is and evaluate what is happening in your organizations, but then understand what is really, the last one I would say is just what is really happening. How are things getting done? And even though we say that these are our values, does that correlate with actually what's happening in your group? So that's it.
Thanks, Amy. I want to thank our sponsors today. We're here every Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Creative Birth Strategies podcast and house here on Clubhouse. I want to thank Percatech, Mr. Perkins. I want to thank Linda Pelagas from Realty 411. I want to thank MB Capital, where I'm a referral partner in unsecured business lines of credit. I'd like to thank Lenmark, where I'm a senior loan analyst, providing asset-based lending nationwide, DSCR, fixed to rent, fixed to flip, new construction, multifamily, single family through four family, and advisory. I'd like to thank our new relationship with Elite Dealmakers, where we're hosting events in North and South Jersey, Philadelphia, and Lehigh Valley. Look forward to that growth relationship over the next year. I think this was a great discussion. I want to thank Van for coming on. Bob, Amy, Stephen, and Brian. Really great in-depth discussion about their personal feelings about mindset and building a winning culture in real estate. And my quote this morning: accept your past without regret, handle your present with confidence, and face your future without fear. See you next week on the streets of Clubhouse. Anybody around South Jersey on Monday? We have Joseph Martella, one of our moderators. We're doing a one-on-one mastermind with a group of about 35 investors that are registered. If you want to come by, it's in Haddonfield at the Tap Room. Reach out to me if you're in the area. I'd love to see all of you. Everybody have a blessed Sunday morning, and I'll be ending the room in the next 30 seconds. And thank you.